I'm Patricia Malone with a CTV News update. Here we go again. Another winter storm. Snow and freezing rain made for some hazardous conditions this morning. Snow blowers and shovels were out and about. This was the scene in Largo. We didn't get as much snow as anticipated, but ice was a real issue. Here's what some motorists said about road conditions this morning.
It was pretty icy out there, but traffic was moving along very, very cautiously. And I didn't have any problem getting over here. But once again, I have four-wheel drive, and if you don't have four-wheel drive, I wouldn't advise you to be out here in this stuff.
So yeah, please take your time out here and be safe.
The winter storm warning remains in effect until 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Well, what started out as a snow operation for the county's Department of Public Works is now an ice operation. Hundreds of roving crews hit the roads at 3 o'clock this morning on rotating 12-hour shifts. Department spokesperson Paulette Jones says an ice operation can present significant issues for crews. She's asking motorists to stay off the roads if possible.
The challenge we're having is that our pavement temperatures are below freezing. So that means that any precip that's falling is actually adhering to the roadways. Now, keep in mind, we did do some pre-treatment ahead of time, but still with the temperatures, the air temperature and the pavement temperatures being what they are, you're still going to have, I guess it's this slushy mixture that will be on the roadways. And so it's not the ideal conditions for people to be traveling on.
And on a transportation note, Jones says due to the conditions, the bus routes 51X and 20 have been suspended. The county's teachers union says the school system's decision to reopen schools in April is courageous. Teresa Dudley says her initial concern is teacher safety. However, Dudley says she's glad to see CEO Monica Goldson taking preventative measures, including vaccine availability for staff. She's also applauding Goldson's decision to let kids return to class in April instead of March, as the governor had proposed.
If the spread rate goes up and it spikes, then we have a different conversation about coming back in April. But she's pushed back a month and a half, 2 months, a month and a half on the March 1st deadline, which we believe was arbitrary and capricious and did not take into account the high spread rates in the Washington metropolitan area.
Dudley says she thinks teachers have enough time to prepare for in-person learning. Well, some local parents are complaining about a lack of transparency from the Prince George's County school system, and they're taking to social media to voice their concerns. Lisa Lake, a parent of a 9th grader, created the Twitter page Reopen PGCPS. Lake says until recently, the school system had not communicated effectively with parents about a timeline for reopening. Also, Lake wants to know how much money is being spent to make buildings safe for both teachers and students.
You transfer, you fast forward rather to a year later, and I don't know how many millions later. And so I've been asking questions like, so let's see the line items. What have you been, how much money has gone into the things like PPE, the things like building inspections? A lot of the concerns that teachers have been bringing up about feeling safe, shields, things like they have in DC, staff, if you give teachers the option, which I actually support, to teach hybrid, teach virtually while some kids are in class. And I didn't get any answers. And I asked, I didn't get any answers when I asked about, okay, so how many kids got a D or below in the first 2 quarters of the first semester?
Meantime, tonight at 6 p.m., the school system will host a telephone town hall to discuss the district's reopening plans. Well, last week, the state legislature overrode Governor Hogan's veto of a monumental education reform bill. The blueprint for Maryland's future is a 10-year plan that would expand pre-kindergarten programs and increase funding for schools with high concentrations of poverty. It would also increase pay for teachers and create career pathways for high schoolers who don't plan to attend college. The bill was the culmination of years of work from education advocates, lawmakers, and policy experts, including Dr. Alvin Thornton, who chaired an education commission nearly 2 decades ago.
Because I've had such a large footprint in the whole blueprint for Maryland's future. We worked hard for 2 years to get that funding for our children. And the legislature thankfully overrode that veto. That was a hard-won battle that the Board of Education unanimously worked and led and marched and advocated to do.
That measure will take effect in mid-March. Well, drug and alcohol-related fatalities have spiked in Maryland since the start of the pandemic. And according to the State Opioid Center, there were more than 2,000 unintentional intoxication deaths from January to September of last year. That's a 12.1 increase compared with 2019. Nationally, the CDC reports a 16.9% increase in drug fatalities from May 2019 to May 2020. And Maryland reports close to 1,000 new coronavirus cases. 986 residents have tested positive in the last 24 hours for COVID. An additional 30 Marylanders have died from the virus. This brings the state's COVID death toll to more than 7,400. And you are watching CTV News. I'm Patricia Valone. We'll be back in just a moment.
For the latest information on COVID-19 in Maryland, visit the State Health Department website. That's health.maryland.gov. Again, health.maryland.gov. Click the link to the COVID-19 information portal. There you'll find all the latest information about coronavirus. You'll find daily updates on cases and fatalities. Answers to questions about testing and the governor's stay-at-home order are available as well. For specific information about Prince George's, visit PrinceGeorgesCountyMD.GOV. That's PrinceGeorgesCountyMD.GOV. The site offers information about local services for residents and businesses. There's a link for COVID-19 relief donations. Also, food pantry locations are listed. And if you have any questions, call the county COVID-19 hotline at 301-883-6627. That's 301-883-6627.
I moved to Florida with literally pennies in my pocket and a prayer. I needed a new start. Dacian looks like a very typical 3-year-old until you ask him, "What's your name? How old are you?" My son has a lot of behaviors that would show as being autistic. Most kids can tolerate a variety of foods, but unfortunately for Dacian, everything has to be organic and raw. I wasn't ashamed to go to the food pantries. It's expensive to eat healthy, and nutrition is very important to Dacian's health. The healthy organic food that we receive dramatically helped his social skills. Most people would say, she really doesn't have much of a life. But to me, I have everything right there next to me and my son.
Welcome back. Maryland Attorney General Brian Frosch calls for an 8-fold increase in eviction filing fees. Frosch is asking lawmakers to raise the fee that landlords file in eviction cases from a low of $15 to $120, about $8 above the national average. He says the increase might discourage landlords from initiating eviction proceedings, which have been readily used against tenants facing financial hardship. The money raised from the fee would go to the financially strapped Maryland Legal Services Corporation, which provides free legal service to low-income residents. A provision which threatened to derail Maryland's stimulus bill last week now gets preliminary approval in a separate measure before the state Senate. Lawmakers have expressed concern about a lack of assistance going to low-wage immigrant workers, including those who are undocumented and disproportionately affected by the pandemic. Rather than introduce a new bill, Senate Democrats have opted to amend an existing tax credit that will include filers who use a tax ID number instead of a Social Security number. The credits over the next 3 years would be identical to what's given to residents eligible for the Earned Income Tax Credit. Senate Republicans have denounced the amendment. Prince George's Delegate Jazz Lewis has introduced legislation calling for the legalization of recreational marijuana in Maryland. Called the Cannabis Restoration Act, it would, among other things, allow for the expungement of criminal records for simple possession charges. The bill would also tax proceeds of sales. 25% would go to the state's general fund, and another 25% would go to Maryland's HBCUs. There is also a social equity component.
Making sure that women and people of color and small businesses have a fighting chance in the industry. We've learned a lot from what happened in the medical program in other states, and we think we have the right formula set up now for social equity applicants to get in the industry, not just ownership, but some of the roles, the ancillary roles that you need in the industry will be just for social equity, such as who transports the product, providing security for a number of the grounds.
A hearing on the bill was held this week before the House Judiciary Committee. Well, 6 months and 300 million miles. Now it all comes down to 7 harrowing minutes. That's how NASA officials are describing today's rover landing on Mars, the first in nearly a decade. Perseverance is scheduled to touch down this afternoon, where it will begin its exploration of the red planet.
It is the shortest yet most dangerous phase of the mission to Mars. Basically, it takes roughly 7 minutes for us to get from the top of the Martian atmosphere all the way down to the surface of Mars. And it's the sequence of events that we walk through, basically disassembling the spacecraft in slow motion so that we can go from the 12 to 13,000 miles per hour that we hit the top of the Martian atmosphere at to the nice, slow touchdown velocity that we want when we put Percy's wheels on Mars.
So when they hit this area that they're going to land on Mars, what happens next?
So we're traveling to a place called Jezero Crater, which is the site of an ancient lake on Mars. We're actually right at the mouth of a river delta, which geographically speaking is a fantastic location to go to if you're searching for those biosignatures, searching for those signs of ancient life, because the mineral deposits that are built up there really contain a lot of that scientific goodness. So that's the spot where Perseverance will begin its mission and begin caching samples and trying to understand more about what makes up the Martian environment.
If you'd like to check out the rover landing, you can go to NASA.gov or view it on any of the space agency's social media sites. Six Flags America is looking to fill 1,500 positions for its new season. The theme park is expected to reopen on March 6th. Six Flags will host a virtual hiring fair this Saturday and Sunday. Job seekers can apply online at sixflags.com. A local organization is lending a helping hand. Nonprofit Be Unlimited and Love AME Church are giving away 100 pairs of free shoes, masks, and school supplies to Prince George's middle and high school students. The event is on February 27th, and you'll need to register for the shoe drive. Be Unlimited says it wants to help students as they head back to the classroom in April.
We're looking to help provide that assistance to families who may need it. So the school supplies come and help with that. Of course, face masks is needed in this pandemic. And we know that families, they have lost, families have lost jobs. So we're trying to help even with the free shoes for those who need it. Our goal coming together was to provide that assistance to our community. We want to serve. And that's what we've decided to do, come together and serve.
The donation will take place at Love AME Church from 1 to 3 p.m. For more information, visit the website on your screen. Let's get a quick check now on our 3-day weather forecast. Tonight, a wintry storm warning is still in effect until the morning. Evening temperatures will reach a low of 29 degrees. Friday, mostly cloudy with snow and freezing rain expected before noon. Daytime temps reach a high near 37 and a low of 24. And the weekend begins with sunny skies and a high near 32, a low around 17. Sunday, sunny with highs near 36 and a low around 27. Now for your community calendar, you can join the Office of the State's Attorney and the Cheverly Police Department for an expungement fair. Meet with legal professionals to evaluate your record, discuss options, and assist with filing. You can come out to Saturday, February 20th from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. Pre-registration is not required. Individuals can register on site. For more information, you can call the Cheverly Police Department at 301-345-1055. And that is your news update. I'm Patricia Vallone. Have a great evening.
When I was growing up, my mom was extremely tidy. We were trained to put things back where we got them from. One day, when I walked into my mom's house, I felt like I walked to someone else's house. There was stuff everywhere. And just growing up the way I grew up and to see this transition was very alarming.
When Sean talked to me, it was a wake-up call, and that's when I went to the doctor.